Hello, everyone. Welcome to the pregame of Memory Jogger. Wyatt is on the line. How are you, sir?
Good. How are you? We are going back to our roots, if you want to call it that. I guess we really did start with Skype back in the day, but we're back on Hangout because we are kind of fed up with the terrible audio quality. So, like we've said before, it was an experiment. We liked its screen by screen or side by side screen
hmm
quality. In fact, it was a lot better quality. I can tell, even with your camera, Jason. Hangouts is not the greatest quality on your video. Um,
Yeah.
but the audio kind of is where it's at because we transfer this into an audio podcast as well, and we combat it with echo and all types of things. So yeah, we're going back to
Yeah.
Hangouts at least for a short time.
It's kind of a trade off. You get better video quality, it seems, with Skype, and um, Hangouts has the better audio quality. And we're kind of taking a chance because Hangouts has screwed us, I think, twice now
Yes.
on podcasts. And I'm just worried I won't have to record, go back and record these over again. But I ran one just last week and it was fine. So we're gonna try Hangouts again. And like he said, this is mainly a podcast first, more than a video cast. So that's why we like the Hangout quality for the listenability. Is that I don't even know if that's a word.
It is a word
Uh,
now.
but we like the Hangouts more as far as that goes. At least I
Right.
do from the
We started out
production standpoint.
several. I guess it has been several years, about 6, 7 years ago, with Agents of Mass. That was our first podcast. We used Skype exclusively, but it was just audio. We never introduced video. Then you, Jason, introduced or found Google Hangouts, and we started liking it because hey, we got video, and then we discovered we could do screen shares. Uh, then we thought we'd go back to Skype and see if the quality was there, but like we said, it's gone south. So we're
Yeah.
back to
Fortunately,
Hangouts. So
yeah. Fortunately, we can't do a simulcast either. I was trying to do both, so I could upload the video from Skype and then match it with the audio from Hangouts, but can't
nope.
have my camera synced into both. So I don't know. Maybe
I thought
maybe
for
we should
sure you
have.
were going to say something that played off, cake and eat it too. I thought you were going to say the camera and view it too or something.
Well, yeah. Maybe we should just do video on Skype and audio only on Hangouts and see if we can do it that way. But that'll be for another time.
Yeah. So we are going to start it off for the official show momentarily.
Yep. Let me get my notes up here as my face becomes brighter.
Look at that glow. At least it's not a pregnant
Right.
glow. I'm just saying.
Oh wow, you've kind of got that glow.
Well, if I do this, I have no glow except behind me. Like I said, I have to
All
have
right.
a light in front of me.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. Well, we're gonna start Memory Jogger 16 here and see how it goes.
I'm ready.
All right. Here we go. Here we go. Welcome back to Memory Jogger on the Rediscover the 80s podcast. Thank you, everyone, for listening as we jog our memories and run down our childhood dreams from the 80s and sometimes early 90s. I am one of your hosts, Jason, trying to avoid the mouse trap and trying not to get caught in the crossfire is my longtime friend and fellow host, Wyatt. How are you, sir?
Doing well. We are having a blast of a time going through our Memory Jogger podcast. Like you just said, it's episode 16. I can't believe we've made it this
Yeah.
far, but it has taken us a little bit longer in between. Like we say, I think a few podcasts before that. This is unfortunately a hobby for us. This is not our main bread and butter. Um, we are working on that. At least I am behind the scenes, trying to get a radio station going. And who knows? It'll be a half hour, 1 hour podcast. I don't know. But nonetheless, we are here talking about card and board games from, I want to
Right.
say yesteryear because it feels like that sometimes.
Yeah, we have been known to play some board games. We've been known to play some card games over the years when we have gotten together at each other's houses, and I remember playing them as a kid, and we even bust them out every once in a while. Even now, when we've got all those screens and video games at our fingertips, we try to shut them off and play a game once in a while. I don't know about you.
I can't get anybody into it, but I need to lay down the law because screen time is getting to be much of a mayhem. I almost said
Yeah.
venom. Bass came through my head, but yeah, I love me some card games. In fact, Jason and I, we went up to RetroCon last year, and although we did bring the Nintendo with us or our retro NES with us,
Mhm.
we still broke out hotels. We still broke out. What else? I don't think we did Spit, but I think we did a couple other board games.
Yeah.
So it was
Yeah.
fun.
It was fun. Payday, which we'll get into.
Yeah.
That was one of them. But yeah, we've got a ton of memories to throw out there tonight about our board games and card games. I've even got a little mini stack over here of some that I still have and have
I have.
collected over the years.
I had to take pictures because the amount that I have no room in this freaking office of mine. I wouldn't be able to bring them in here. I'd have to do like I did for
Gotcha.
our last podcast, which was the memorabilia box. I have to go out into the big room here and make a mess.
Well, yeah, we're gonna tease you a little bit with some stuff like that, and then before we get into the show, though, I wanted to do what we've been trying to do is give some listener feedback, and also I got one little icebreaker I wanted to throw at you before we get going. But as far as feedback goes, Space over on YouTube, he's been he usually comments on pretty much every video, which we really appreciate on that. But he said, is following up on our memory box treasures, he says, I love the odd things that we all hung on to. It's always going to seem so weird to me that no matter what part of the country we grew up in, that we all had so much in common. It blows my mind. And I think that is part of what we try to do. You know, there's some regional and specific stuff that we experience as kids growing up in central Pennsylvania, but there's a lot of stuff that translated nationwide if you grew up in the 80s. And
Well, just think about like you were doing, saving movie stubs or going to the local theme park, whether it's Hershey Park for us, local kind of area, or someone out in Illinois, St. Louis that goes to Six Flags, whatever regional. That's you save something from there. So it's
right.
kind of cool that there are similarities that we all kept something relatively similar in our memorabilia boxes. So that's really awesome.
Yeah, I'm glad. I was kind of worried that wasn't going to translate too well into a podcast, and that's why we're kind of pushing everybody to go over to YouTube more
Hmm.
for that show. But I'm glad that we did get some feedback that some of the stuff that we were keeping kind of translated, to some other people. And then Gerospace also commented on our working in radio memory jogger. He said, quote, I love this. The diagrams were really good to help explain what you were talking about. And that's crazy. And that crazy news broadcast was wonderful. Great job yet again, guys. So glad you enjoyed that one as well. That was really fun. That was probably one of my favorites so far.
Yeah. I'm
Working
still
in.
still in love with my radio station chats. I already got a couple other ones spring to mind. I'm not trying not to make a third one because I think that's just ridiculous. But I still have things in my head going, man, we didn't talk about I want to talk about Myron Cope. I want to talk about the football, the National Football League and the fun that we had there. Um,
Mhm.
Little things. I finally did I keep it here? No. I thought I did find my FCC license. I was going to show it,
Nice.
and I thought I kept it out, but obviously I didn't.
Well, just so you know where my priorities are, speaking of football, right now it was halftime of the Penn State Ohio State game. So I opted
I'm
to
surprised
join
you're doing
you.
a podcast because, dude, growing up with Jason, and it's still the same way because I whenever he says anything on Facebook about sports, I know not to text or call him. But growing up, I would call him every now and then, just chit chat and whatever else. And it was like, I'm sure it's just like my wife talking to me right any other time, but it's like, hey, dude, what's up? How you doing? Yeah. What's going on? Just watching the game.
um,
Okay. And took me like 2 or 3 phone calls to figure out. Yeah, I'll just catch you later or tomorrow at school.
yeah, I get sucked into those games, especially my teams. So
Hey, I'm all
uh,
for anything in PA, but that's about as much cheer as you get out of me. I'm not diehard enough to go watch it. I
well,
just
I
I
used to
can't get
be
into it.
more into I used to be more into just about every sport, but I've backed off a lot, backed off on all the fantasy sports and all that. I was big into that for years, and I was like, I'm gonna get rid of all that and just watch the games I want to watch. And anyway, yeah.
Well, you say that. Not here we are on our bunny trail, right? Um, the f- the funniest football show or game I watched. It was probably the Steelers. Dead of winter, and it was when you and I were in high school. It might have been the year after, but we were watching one of the football games. You wanted to watch it, and like dead of winter, they didn't call the game. It was just they're going to play no matter what. So you see this
Mhm.
one swatch of snowblower down the middle. That was it because that was all you needed to see for the lines. And then I thought it was a ride. It was a comedy show for me because they tackle the dude, right? And then it would skid for like 20, 30 yards. I'm like, this is a ride. This is a football game. This is what I want to see. I like the comedy of whoa, not just
Oh yeah,
you know, yeah, yeah. I was having fun with that.
football in the winter was always fun. I remember I put this in my little memoir, but I'll share it here since we're talking about football in winter. We used to go outside a lot in the snow and
Mhm.
throw the football around, pretend like we're playing or whatever, just me and the neighborhood kid. Well, one day I was out and we had a good bit of snow. I'm in my full gear, my full snowsuit, and I had a Nerf football, had it for years, and I'd like to go out in my front yard and I would toss it up and kind of play catch to myself, pretend I'm the quarterback and throw it up high enough and then come under it, pretend I'm the wide receiver catching it. Well, I had built this pretty good sized snowman in my front yard, and I forgot it was there, and I threw a pass up, and I caught it and turned around, and the snowman pretty much tackled me, and there's nobody around, so I'm kind of laying there. I don't remember like being knocked out or anything, but it was like snowman's gonna hurt if you run into it.
Oh yeah.
So, so I'm kind of there, and nobody's around, so it wasn't really an embarrassing moment, other than I just myself knowing. But yeah, so I've always enjoyed football in the snow. That was just one time that didn't work out too well for me. I don't know how old I was. Maybe 10, 11 years old, something like that. It was still in Kerwinsville. But anyway, well, let's get past that. Let's go on to the icebreaker I wanted to talk about, which was, have you seen the new Bumblebee trailer?
I have, and I saw it actually in the movie theater.
Oh,
Uh,
nice.
I can't remember. It was for a kids movie that we watched. Anyway, escapes me. Um, but I was impressed. I think I even texted you about it that the new Bumblebee was the trailer was awesome. It was like they I think I even said Michael Bay finally got one right, something to that effect because
Well,
it makes
they got it
sense
right.
now.
Yeah, they got it right because he's not involved.
Well, that explains it. I haven't been paying attention to like who does what. But man, I bet he was a little well, he got his money. What does he care?
Yeah, he doesn't care. But yeah, I was really intrigued to start because he's the old what we call beeper, the Volkswagen Bug,
Yeah.
and we got a hint of Starscream like chasing him, and
Hmm.
then the newest one. Have you seen the newest one where it's got like Optimus and everybody else in it?
No, no.
Okay, you have to go watch that. Like as soon as we're done recording this, you got to watch the new trailer because it shows. I think it's primarily on Cybertron. It shows Optimus. It shows Soundwave and one of the cassettes coming out of him. I think it's Ravage.
Nice.
It shows like the old. You remember it was in the early part of the Transformers when they're still on Cybertron, like Starscream and all of the jets were those like triangular shaped jets.
Yes. Yes. What's funny,
It shows those.
I haven't seen them for years, and I remember like Soundwave was a light post. That's the one I remember of all things. I remember him being a light post because he transforms to camouflage himself. He's just a big old light post. I'm like, oh, okay. How do you go from a light post to a cassette player? I don't know. Um,
Yeah.
but man, I remember the triangle spaceship doohickeys things that
Yeah,
they were.
yeah, that was in the trailer. Shockwave that has got the one eye,
Yeah.
he's in there. It's all the old school. I mean, it's the more it's I don't know if it's like updated, but it's pretty much all the G1 characters in their original form, and they transform a little bit different when they're in the robot mode, like Bumblebee does. He's got that weird mask that comes down when he's in battle mode or whatever.
Right.
But for the most part, all the vehicles seem to match up. And
Nice.
I'm so excited to go watch this. And well, it comes out in Christmas. So it's going to be easy to go out and watch it that weekend, or I can't know if it's like before or after. I don't know where Christmas lands this year, but I know me and the boys are planning to go as soon as it comes out and check it out. And I'm just hoping that it's supposed to be like an origin story, but I still hope that if they're doing another Transformers, that they build off of that versus trying to do another origin story or something different. I just hope that if it's truly going to live up to the hype of the G1 kind of universe, I hope they keep that intact and keep moving forward. And I hope people will turn out and go see it and make it popular enough to say, yes, this is our new direction. And yes, let's keep going with this.
Yeah. Something that
So,
finally makes sense.
right. And have you seen Walmart is releasing some of the original toys? Like
No.
I saw I saw Sean Robert over at Brand in the 80s. He bought a Optimus truck. It doesn't transform, but it's the G1 cab over
Nice.
tractor. And I think it was like $6 or something, he said. But I've also seen somebody post an actual set of Devastator that was like $76 or something. And I believe it transforms. It's like
I saw that. I
basically a
think I saw it.
reproduction.
Maybe I did see that one.
Yeah, so this is exciting. They're like releasing reproductions of all of the original toys, I guess leading up to the new movie coming out to get
Nice.
us fans
Hooked.
all crazy. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I already screwed up. I meant to go see Transformers the movie this week. It came here.
Oh, I totally forgot. I was so pissed off when I remembered.
Oh, I
I
didn't. I
wanted to go
knew I
see it.
couldn't do it because it was one of these. My new work. I'm salaried. I have to work 40 hours, but they watch the clock, so I have to make sure I make 40 hours. Now I can cut and splice any which way I can't do, but if I
Yeah.
skip out a couple days, I'm working 10-hour, 12-hour days just to make up for it. And that's Tuesday was my day.
Mhm.
So I wasn't going to be able to
Yeah.
watch it even if I wanted to.
I saw people start posting, theater photos of, waiting to watch it. And I was like, oh man, I'm so jealous. But
Well, I got the
yeah, this
Blu-ray,
is exciting.
and I got the VHS anyway, so I'm good.
Yeah, I think I just have the DVD, the remastered, the one
Yeah.
that just came out. So anyway, so this is fun, man. We're gonna have some good Transformer stuff leading into the Christmas
Oh
season.
yes.
So I'll
About
be
time.
I'll be putting a bunch of those on my Christmas list.
I gotta get a bigger house. Or
Yeah.
the Taco Bell dude. I gotta get a bigger box.
Right. Right.
That's been my line lately because, well, as you know, I got that board, and I actually had to put my I have like a hand truck or two
Mm-hmm.
wheel hand truck. I have no more space in the shed, so it's sitting out under the tarp in front of the truck.
Yikes.
Uh,
Yikes. All right. Well, let's get into the topic at hand, our
yes.
board games and card games we remember as kids. And uh, let me just start off by saying, I guess, what is your earliest memory? Who did you play your board games with? Was it your family? I know you had a sister, so did you play some with your sister? Was it,
Yeah.
friends? Was it, who was it?
It was earliest was probably my parents. I remember playing board games with um, my mom, my sister. We started out, of course, with the child games. So, Shoots and Ladders, Candyland. Um, I want to say we learned chess as well. I want to say it was my granddad that taught me chess. Or, I'm sorry, checkers,
Mhm.
checkers. And we just kind of went from there. Um, my dad really didn't play too many games with us. He was always busy with the truck.
Mhm.
So didn't play too much with him. My mom, she introduced me to, I think it was her that introduced me to, or a friend of ours introduced us to the Mileborn as well.
Mhm.
Um, and then it would kind of just spitballed, I'll call it, friends of school, um, our mutual friend, you, my cousins, we just started just playing whatever games, not, just kind of, like I said, it just kind of snowballed. We just started picking up, Uno and the whole gamut, I feel like, of games. So
Mhm.
I played Yahtzee with and it'll be in the pictures here as we go through. I still found the Yahtzee scorecards. Oh, screw it. I'll do it now. Where's my screen share? Don't remember how to do screen share on this. I'm kidding. So let me find there. I don't know if you can see that very well.
Mhm.
But these are the original scorecards, scorecards from Yahtzee. I still have the original game. You can see the little uh, slit for the cup and whatever else. I only have two. I think the dice are in another box. But one of these, this one says Mum. That's what I called my grandmother and Pap. So they both played games with me at one point. Um, and then shoot, how do I turn off this? Um, uh, my granddad was big into solitaire. Just sit there. He would sit there for days and hours just playing solitaire. So he taught me how to play solitaire. Otherwise, that was, I guess, really the family involvement. I mean, we played everything. Like I said, Uno, chess, checkers. My uncle was the one that taught me chess, and he bought me a. It's a question later on, but um, he bought me my first chess set. And it happened to be a travel chess set.
Oh yeah.
So I have no idea where that's at now, but yeah, it was pretty cool. How about you? What is your earliest memories of playing, whether it's board or card games?
Yeah, my dad was always big and very competitive. Liked to try to cheat, still does. Um, we've played games for years. Some of the ones that we played, even up through, like if I brought a sorry game and put it out, we would start playing instantly. Like now.
Mhm.
So sorry was the big one with my dad. Connect Four, remember playing that a lot with him. And then when I was over at my grandmother's, we would play checkers. She taught me how to play checkers. and we'd also play War with a deck of cards, which is just the turn 2 cards over, which one is higher or lower,
Oh,
and
I forgot about that. You taught me
you
that too.
yeah you keep if you win, you keep the cards, and whoever gets all the cards wins. Or
I think you taught me that over your Grams. I remember being at your Grams. You taught me that and Pinochle. I have no idea how to play Pinochle now, but I remember Pinochle.
Pinochle. I don't remember playing that, but we did
Oh,
play a lot of War and then checkers, kind of back and forth. But she had a little cabinet that she kept them in, and I'd always go to there and pull them out. Wouldn't take too long. And Old Maid, we used to play Old Maid too. That was a big one. Until the Old Maid got ripped up and stuff from me throwing it around when I got stuck with it. Then it was kind of easy to find it, when you're picking somebody's card, and that's the Old Maid right there. So, and Go Fish, we did do Go Fish too. So we liked the card games when I visited her. And then there's those ones that pretty much have lasted over the years. Candyland, I remember playing that a lot as a kid, and Shoots and Ladders. Those two are pretty much a staple. Still, you can still find them today.
oh yeah.
Changed a little bit, but same
Concept.
yeah, different artwork. But yeah, that was kind of my earlier experience with board games and card games. And then yeah, it was just natural when I came over to your place, or when we were over at our mutual friend's house there. He always had some great games, some that we wished we had, that we'll get into here shortly, I'm sure.
Oh yeah.
But you wrote down a couple questions here.
Yeah, one of them was, did you play them at any time? But did you play card games, video games, card or board games, to fill boredom, or perhaps just do it at parties, or because you actually wanted to play them?
Yeah, I mean, obviously I was an only child, so it's hard to break out a board game. So I did play, like solitaire, and like I mentioned in the game show podcast, that I created the Card Sharks bonus round as a solitaire to kind of pass the time. But there was a few games that I had. I don't know if they're kind of, I don't even call them board games. One that I remember having, it was called Run Yourself Ragged. And it was this tabletop game that you had a marble, and it was like a maze that you kind of went through, and it had different little stations, to where there was like 2 metal brackets that the marble you had to slide the marble down. And then there was like these little steps, and you had to shoot the marble up to the next step. And then you had like this bridge that went down and up, and you had to get it across the bridge. And there was a lot of little challenges, and it was kind of a solitaire type, one person playing the game. So some of those that were, tabletop and you could do by yourself, I kind of gravitated towards those. And there were some that I just would get out and play around with too, Candyland or Shoots and Ladders, those kind of things. One I remember having was Don't Break the Ice. You remember that one? There's
Yes.
there's
I just popped it up on mine. That's I waited for you to talk. I remember you playing this. You taught me this. I completely did not know what this game was until you just started talking about it. But I remember trying this. I think I used to get pissed off about this little tunnel, or maybe it was this guy. One of the two I got a little pissed off about, because I could never get him out or in, or whatever needed to happen.
The the bridge on the right there that went up and down, that one was a little tricky. And then the silver brackets there, that was tricky too.
Yeah. That's cool.
But yeah, that was one. Like I said, the other one was Don't Break the Ice. If you remember that one.
We just
in the table. Go ahead.
We recently had that with the kids, and Adam used to love, when he was like 3 years old, 4 years old, he loved to do it, but he would do it. I just, how we would never play the actual game. He just do it to beat it up.
Right.
I had just get the one seated, bam, and he thought it was that was him. He was a riot because I'd exaggerate. I go, oh, not again, and he just you know
Right. Yeah.
yeah.
It took longer to set up than to play, pretty
It
much,
did.
And I remember Dad and I playing. That was one that we played together, and he was so into it that he would take his little hammer and just tap 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 tap, and just slowly get that ice to go down. But he would still do that too. When there was like just one row left, you
Oh yeah.
you pretty much lost the game. But he would still do it there, and then try to put his hand up under the bottom to hold the guy up. Like he is out there on an island or something.
Right.
But yeah, that was one I remember playing a lot of as a kid, and being able to do that kind of on your own or with GI Joes or whatever you had,
Right.
you can mess around with. So, what about you? Did you kind of lean one way or the other on when you played the games?
Sometimes it was out of boredom. You can only watch so much cartoons, or when Mom says, "Oh, enough TV." So then I would break out a game, usually with my sister. Sometimes I just did it to do it. One of the
Yeah.
ones I remember doing was um, Ants in the Pants, because that was relatively something you could do. Um, right there, it is. You could
Hmm.
kind of do that, and
I
you
remember
just
that
fill
one.
the bucket up and dump it out and redo it again. Um, a couple other games, Solitaire, when my dad or my granddad taught me about it. Um, yeah, I even play a couple board games up, by myself. Sorry was kind of easy to do. Checkers. But I honestly loved playing games, so it it was okay. TV goes off. Okay, that's not a big deal. I can play games. I love them. I still love it. Uh, Julie won't play with games with me, so they sit here collecting dust in the closet. I started to teach Adam shoots and ladders here not too long ago, and he got all bent out of shape because I think out of like 10 games, I won one, and I
Hmm.
wasn't even faking it. I was actually legit trying, and he got all bent out of shape. That happened for like 3 or 4 times, and we diminished that for a while. But so he takes after his mom because his mom is a sore loser when it comes to the games. That's why we don't play. So
Well, another one I remember just before we move on is it was called Mr. Pop, and it was this face. This was a good one for just one person playing by themselves, but it was like this kind of dummy face, and you tipped his head back, and then you put on his eyes, nose, mouth, whatever, and it was like a timer involved, and I can't remember exactly the rules of the game, but I think you were trying to. There it is.
yeah, there it is. As I talk, you can see the at least the board, the box of it. Here's some of the pieces to it.
Right, and I'm trying to remember how it worked with the cards, and maybe you're trying to build the face before the timer runs out or something. We're given a card and you got to pull out the pieces because they had like different pieces to create different faces. But the timer would pop and then the thing would go shooting at you, all of those little pieces pieces of his face. It was kind of like what was
Pie in
that
the
one
face.
called? Perfection. You remember that one?
Oh,
Where you had the shapes and you would push the tray down. You're trying to put the shapes in before the timer runs out, and then it all pops up at you. That was a good one.
yeah.
Uh,
I had two of those games. I don't know how we got two,
oh,
uh,
really?
but we had two of those.
Well, you mentioned about having some travel games.
Yes, that was the other one. The question I had for you is, did you
Uh-huh.
ever get any or have any travel games? Uh, Maybe like checkers or something.
Not really. I remember having. a couple travel games. Just mainly when our kids were like Jackson was younger, we had like a travel game of Sorry, which was weird. But most of my travel games were electronic. So the little electronic football and baseball, and I had a little handheld Burger Time that my cousin gave me when they visited, and some of those little Radio Shack, uh, LCD type games. That's what I mainly did on the road.
Yeah. I had, oh, I just found it, I think, or something very similar to it. Um, yeah. So I had, like I said, my uncle gave me a backgammon game that was very much similar to this. Um, I had that for years and before all these pieces started like it all just like started to disintegrate. I hope he didn't pay this price for it, the 2000.
What in the world?
Yeah, it was just a cheap thing he probably picked up at Lightsingers or Ames, whatever the two. But then we had a I just had it. Where'd it go? I had one of these. I don't know if you can see it very well. Sorry. Like
Mm-hmm.
this, a little magnetic chess checkers game, something like this. Um, I think it was actually like this, but I had that too. That was my travel games. I didn't have much other travel games, mainly because it had to be magnetic. Otherwise, there was no sense of going on the car ride or going on the
Right.
camping trip with that. But but yeah,
I got you.
it was all fun.
Yep. Yeah. Yeah. I think there was a few like that back then, but I don't. I was thinking maybe it was more later where they started come out with the travel versions of the popular games. I could be wrong.
They did. They had. I just saw it here. They had right here. They had Clue, um, Clue, Monopoly, Connect Four, Trouble, Battleship. I thought I saw another round of some too, but yeah,
Mm-hmm.
they had Hasbro eventually, entered into the scheme of doing uh, some kind of travel magnetic games, so that they could obviously make
Yeah.
money at it. I guess that leads us into kind of just going back and forth what games we had or remember playing
Yeah.
back in the day, or even
I've
still
got
today.
right. Well, I've got a couple I can show you. This one I remember having as a kid. This is the Pac-Man card game, and it was basically like a math game where you had these cards. You get a board that was kind of like this, where you have the number cards on either side, and then you have the picture cards in the middle, which are the ghosts. Well, the ghosts in Pac-Man, and those would tell you whether you're going to subtract, add, or multiply.
Oh wow.
I don't think there was a divide one. And then the number cards were just kind of, I think they were mostly like, yeah, they were 0, 5, 10, 0, 1, 5, and 10. So you were trying to get, the tens on either side and then get a plus or a times in the middle to
Hmm.
get the highest score on your card. At least that's the way I played it. It was the easiest way to play it. And it still has the instructions on the inside cover. I
Nice.
always liked it when they put the instructions on the actual inside cover of the box versus having them,
Have a
on
loose
paper
paper. Yeah.
that you could lose. And some games were a little more difficult for that to happen. You had to have separate instructions. But I remember having this one as a kid. I don't think this is the one. I think I actually picked this one up on eBay. I think it's the actual one that I had as a kid. But I remember having that, and I either I don't know if it was me or one of my friends had the PacMan board game that you played with marbles, and
You
you
had it.
had, was it
I
me?
swear you had it.
Okay. It might have been me. Because you would go along the board, you'd move your little Pac-Man, and you chomp the marbles as you make your way across the board. I can't remember all the rules to it, but those two were pretty big up there. I did like playing those. I'll let you throw one out there now.
Sorry, I muted myself by accident. This is what Jason was talking about. This is the marble board game for Pac-Man, and I remember. I swear it was you that did this, but yeah, I remember you'd have to gobble it up, and I don't know. I can't remember the rules. I don't remember how the ghosts
Yeah.
moved, but yeah, it was a pretty cool game. What I remember of it anyway.
Yeah, there was a lot of video games that had their own board games back then in the 80s.
That's what you said. It was on you came across. It's been a few podcasts ago, but you said that there was a um like a Wikipedia or rather an IMDb style for.
Yeah, I think it's the is it Board Game Geek or something like that. Anyway, I've sifted through there a few times and I've found like Centipede, I think Frogger. Trying to remember what else. It was mainly like the Atari games, I think, but they had a board game version of it. So when you got sick of playing it on the screen or got frustrated, you take out your frustration on one of your friends.
Right. One of the ones I remember is I had this. I don't know. I don't have it now, but I grew up with one called Torpedo Run. Um, it was
Say that again. I think you cut out.
one of the games that I had growing up. I've since lost it. Trying to find a picture of it here. No decent ones. No decent pictures I can find real quick. It was kind of along the lines of like I'll call it a battleship on steroids. So you had like a submarine and a couple battleships, and you could somehow launch these little red or orange discs. But I don't remember how it played out. I love this game like to bits. I would just play this like by myself.
Torpedo Run. I
Yeah.
kind of remember that.
Here's a sketch of it. How you kind of set it up.
Yes.
But yeah, I had this. Like I said, I don't know whatever happened to it, but I'm sure it's one of those that's long gone since we've moved out of Dory Street. That was the first area I lived in. What else? What else do you got?
I've got now. This was one talking about playing games by yourself and just playing around with them. This was a perfect one for me. This one is Bigfoot.
Yes.
The board game. I don't know if you remember playing this with me or not.
I don't think I ever played that with you, but I know you showed it to me. That was it.
This was so cool because somehow I got lucky. And I don't know where the other one went. Oh, shoot. I don't even have the trucks in here.
Oops.
Or the cards. Crap. I was going to show them all off. I actually got two boards with my game. So here's the
very
board.
Nice.
Yeah. So I could put them like back to back. And then you had all these fun little roads here. And it came with these real small Bigfoot trucks. They were about half the size of like a Hot Wheels. And then you got all of these cool like cards one side, and they're all color coded. So you had like, I think it was red, white, or red, blue, green, yellow. Probably got these in a separate little thing, so I didn't lose them all. Here, well, the trucks are on the front here. That's what they look like. And during the game, you could actually move this little lever to like 2-wheel drive to 4-wheel drive. So you could essentially drive off the road onto the like mud to go after one of your buddy's cars. And the cards themselves had pictures of there was like a Lambo, there was a Corvette, might have been a Trans Am. Trying to remember. On one side of the card, it looked like a brand new car, and then you flipped it over and it was crushed. So you placed your cars all along the board, and then you had your Bigfoot truck, and you rolled the dice and you tried to get and smash everybody's car. And once they smashed all 4 of your cars, you were like out. So it was a fun game. And like I said, with having those 2 boards that I got with it, you put them back to back, and you could even, play with your Hot Wheels on there. It wasn't, it was a little small, but it was still fun. And oh man, I loved that one as a kid. Wish I had the cards with it. I'll have to dig those out. I know I got them. But what's the next one for you?
The other one, this should have been in a different venture. I guess I'll go this way. Sorry. One of my favorite games, and it only took about 5 minutes to play, really, was the Dukes of Hazzard board game. Actually, this one looks like it's a Spanish version or some other version. Yeah, you had these little roadblocks. I think that was like I can't remember the rules. I should remember. I just played it not too long ago. But basically, there's a card, or you can set these roadblocks up to delay your opponent. You had 2 courses. You could take the highway, which you were allowed to roll two dice for that, or you took the dirt road, which was 1 dice. But you had all these shortcuts, like you could jump over the creek.
Cool.
You could get these cards and all types of stuff. There's Hazard County Jail. Here's Cooters. There's the Boar's Nest up here, and then you basically race to home. You're racing for the farm. So, but yeah, like I said, it takes all of 5 minutes to play. It's a real quick game, unless someone really is clever and does the roadblocks and all that. You might go 10 minutes, but it's one of my favorites. I lost this game growing up. I had the original bought probably for Christmas or something. Lost it. I was at my first duty assignment, walking through whatever the mall was near. Was it O'Fallon? Near O'Fallon, Illinois. There's a mall up there somewhere. Walking through, and it's of course one of these middle vendors that just. Oops, I didn't realize I'm still screen sharing. There's one of these middle vendors that's just sitting out, just like the calendars or jewelry or whatever you see in the middle. And I literally just glossed by it because I don't pay no mind to the guys in the middle. And I'm like, wait, I think I just saw Dukes. I turned over. Sure enough, I'm like, dude, I got to get this. $10. And
nice.
This was like in '98, somewhere around there, 98, 99. I'm like, yeah, I got to get this because I've lost mine, and I've had it ever since. It's still in my stash. Like I said, I've pulled it out. I mean, I don't have the games nearby, but this is one of 2 cabinets full of games. So you can see the combo, checkers, chess, backgammon, trouble, several Monopoly games down the list here.
Mm-hmm.
There's the Dukes of Hazzard game right there, and Uno tucked over here. There's a memory game. This is Shoots and Ladders. There's another Shoots and Ladders. My wife keeps saying we don't. She can never remember if we have Shoots and Ladders. We have like 3. Clue, sorry. Surf and Slides. It's Mickey Mouse Clubhouse. Scrabble, Life, Payday, another Monopoly, Jenga, and of course my Dukes of Hazzard deck of cards right there.
I see Skippo at the bottom too.
Yes, that's another. Where's the arrow? Right there.
Oh, there
Skippo,
we go.
Dominoes, Memory Game, Twister, which I don't think I've ever played. And just recently, the last 2 years, I bought the Settlers of Catan set.
Yeah, that's a great game.
Oh, that's an addictive game.
I love it.
I don't have any
People,
friends around to play it. Otherwise, I probably would be divorced by now because I love it that much.
yeah. I've got 2 or 3 friends that will come over with their wives every once in a while, and we'll bust it out. And they usually tell me not to play because, like, the last, I don't know, probably 3 or 4 times we played, I've won. I don't know. I just like it because there's so many different ways to win. It's not it's just a unique game. All right.
Yeah.
Well, here is one I know you'll remember because I believe it's yours.
It is mine.
Hotels. Now,
Yes.
we played this quite a bit.
So much that you duct taped it together.
It's needed some tape over the years. Yes. Oh my God. All the pieces are still here. I've made sure to keep everything. And me and the boys have played some over the years too. But this game was so much fun. It was like you say, Monopoly on steroids.
It kind of was.
Because, you had all these wonderful buildings that you can, the
boomerang.
Make your way, boomerang along the way. This one was always the most expensive, the presidential or president.
Yep.
I remember mostly Waikiki, Taj Mahal. I think this one's the Royale. Yeah.
Yep.
And the Fujiyama.
Yeah, the Fujiyama.
So, and then you got all of the little
steps.
Yeah, all the facilities, I think, is what they were called in there.
Oh yeah,
pool and stuff, and then you've got all these little entrances to your hotel.
I don't know if
the money, and you got the limo cars.
But I came across. It's been a few years ago. I came across one of those entrances.
Oh,
and
really?
I can't remember if I gave it to you or if I still have it in one of my zillion boxes.
Well, this game, you had the at least the setup instructions. Sometimes they put the cardboard insert inside these games and then put all the stuff underneath it. So that was kind of cool about this. I don't think. Oh, yes, it does. This is a huge box, so there was room for the instructions on the inside of the box.
Yeah, we played many hotels back in the day.
Yeah, and that was not a short game. That would take forever because it got to the point where, just like Monopoly, where you want to try to bankrupt the other person, and that's kind of the end of the game,
Right.
Versus just trying to build everything. But yeah, oh my gosh, Hotels was great, and we spent plenty an hour playing that back in the day. Love the Hotels. What else you got?
Oh, I'm trying to think which way to go because I wrote down so many.
Well, we can talk about some that we played.
Yes, that's what I was just getting ready to think of. Like we said before, we played many multiple games of Spit. So for those that may or may not know how this game rolls, you have. It's been some time. I think if you remember it, you had 5 cards. You got 4 cards across. You had 5 cards at the end.
There's a deck of cards. You're using a deck of cards, yeah.
And then you had 2 in the middle. You kept turned over. Then you divvied up the rest between the 2. And you could in front of you. You could have 4 faced up.
Right.
And then you and your opponent sat on the other 2. and you go basically 1, 2, 3, and you flip those two center ones, and it was a mad dash. You could go up or down the scale. So 2, 3, 4, 3, 2, 1, or ace, whatever it was. But if you got onto a hold, you flip the outer two cards, those that stack of 5 on each end. You could stack and keep going if you needed to. But the reason it's called spit, and other versions are the 4-letter version of that. Is if you had two deuces, the first one that said spit, the other one was the one that got the pile of that. So
Yeah.
that's why the other name was also predominant.
It
Uh,
was kind of like Skip-Bo, like a battle version of Skip-Bo
yeah,
almost.
I could say
And
that.
it got intense, man. I remember there were some games that, when you when you say spit and you have to take all those cards, you're like, oh my God, I just, you get them several times in a row. It gets very frustrating.
So here is, I just found a photo. It's a YouTube. Someone played this on YouTube.
Oh,
So,
nice.
well, they have 5 cards. We played 4, but you had the deck of cards in your hand or just elsewhere, and this was this was your pull from pile. So it was a very fast pace because you're trying to get done first. So you'd be having like maybe 4 cards, or like this one has 5, but you might have 2 cards open. You have to keep in your mind, you got to keep flipping more cards out while you're still making your moves here, and
Right.
still being attentive to yell and spit, so you're not the one handed with 30 cards. So it was hilarious. We would do this, oh dude, many, many times. We talked about how we did got the popcorn chicken from KFC, the original, in the $5 box that Jason described, and we get the hot sauce, and we would just go to town on this game for, it seemed like hours,
Yeah.
while Three Stooges was playing in the background.
Drinking Mountain Dew and Dr. Pepper.
Heck
Yeah.
yeah. Oh man, that was the best game, I swear. That's all we did. Every now and then
We played that one a lot.
he and I would pull out his penny jar, and we would do poker every now and then. We bring your penny jar out, and that was our basically our ante. And of course, no
Yeah.
one got any money, but it was just for tokens or something just to play with. But
Right.
yeah, Spit was probably the top game that we went for whenever we hung out.
Yeah. Probably 1B is Mileborn.
Yes.
And that game, that was very unique because I had never seen it up until probably I knew you and was over at your house and we started playing it. And I do have a deck of those in my stash somewhere that I found. It might have been at Toys R Us, but it was a very unique game. It was kind of akin to Skippo or something, but it was all about cars, and you would be trying to get a certain amount of miles. That was like your points, and you would have a green light so you could accumulate your miles, but you also had like these cards that would either give you a red light or an accident or a flat tire or out of gas. And you had these other cards that were like your repairs. You had like your repairs for an accident, your fuel for you run out of gas, a spare tire, and then you had these cards that were they would help you to prevent them even putting an accident on your car. There was like what was it, driving ace and puncture proof and right of way and extra tank or something like that. So they couldn't even put those like that out of gas card on your pile. But it was like a back and forth type game, and it was fun because you're trying to keep moving with your pile of stuff and accumulating your miles, and then you're trying to prevent the person you're playing with from getting their mileage. And it was fun. I enjoyed it. It was different. It was something unique. And where did you say you somebody got it to you as a present or something?
I don't know how we got it, and I'm putting it on the screen share so you see this. This was the original set, at least the one I had. It had the green discard and pull from card
Mm-hmm.
area. This is long gone. I don't know where it is ended up, but this is the box I used to have. Oops. Um, these are the cards Jason was alluding to. So you'd have your mile marker points. This was your score. So you went. Um, the goal was to go. The first one to get to 700 miles won, but there was a catch where you could play to 1,000. We defaulted and just played to 1,000 because it was fun.
Right.
You could only have throw down 200 points. That was the max. That was one of the rules. Like Jason said, this is the driving ace. So anybody that gets an accident card, they can't throw it on you because you're the driving ace. You're impervious to any wrecks. The same with gas. You know, you can't run out of gas now if you throw down this. But it was all about car stuff. So you'd have, your speed limit of 50.
All right.
And
That was interesting too when you get a speed limit.
yep. And then you'd have to get the end of limit. Your speed limit, was, you restricted to 25 or 50. That's the only card you could throw down. There was your stoplight. There was a go light. That must have been your phone.
Yes, sorry.
I'm like, dude, you had burritos again.
Oh, nice. I hope the YouTubers got a laugh out of that.
I'm gonna tell you one off air. That's too bad for on air. Anyway, so before you could even go on this job or your game, you had to have a green light, and you could sit there like 5, 6, 7 rounds before you finally get a green light, which was the terrible part because you got your opponent's already 300 points ahead of you, and you're still waiting for the green light to
Right.
pop
Yeah,
up.
that was frustrating.
But I learned of it again through a family member. They had it, and we ended up getting it at one point. And then, like I said, we lost it. So if you remember some of our podcasts ago, we talked about we took this one of our field trips, or well, not a field trip, our solo trip down to. We went on this mission. It was right after high school. We were graduated, and we're like, "Man, you remember this game, Mileborn? Yeah, let's do this." So we just did like a road trip, and we went from. I think we ended up going to State College first.
Mm-hmm.
Looked all over like hills, and I think Toy Stores was up there, and just looked all over. Could not find this thing. I don't know if it was the same day. I don't think it was the same day. But then we went to Altoona, went to Toys R Us. Lo and behold, they have a newer, I'll call it version of Mileborn, and that's the one I've had ever since. I still have it. I still play it from time to time. I have found it on app games, so I'll have that and I'll play it, from time to time.
I remember finding something on Windows. I think
I sent it to you, probably
probably back in the day that had it.
back when we were
I
still
just got my
using
phone.
Yahoo Messenger.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Playing Pool and
Battleship, and Scrabble.
Yeah,
I
we
think we
played
played
that.
once.
Yeah, I think we did some Scrabble too. So yeah, Mileborn was a big one for us too. Another one which you showed, which I still have too, that I usually don't play unless I'm with you, was Payday. Payday
Oh
was
yes.
another big one that we did. And I remember going, we would usually predetermine how many months we're going to play on Payday. Because if you remember the game, it's basically set up like a month, 30 days. And there was different little things you could do along the way. You could get deals to earn money, and you'd have to pay somebody for groceries or something. It was fun. And then you get the mail, so you get like your bills in the mail that you have to pay at the end of the month. And that was we would say, okay, we'll play 6 months, and then, then we get down to it, and you'd be ahead or something. All right, let's go another month, and then you'd still be ahead. Let's go another month. And, all right, you win. But yeah, that was another staple that we would play a lot of.
And this is the version. I think this is actually, they call it the classic edition, but this is the one we grew up with. I have the newer version now, but this is what we would play. And like Jason said, we just go round and round through the. You get your sweepstakes, you roll the lottery, and you just keep going, going, going. We put everything that was like family casino night or whatever. We throw it in the jackpot. I think was what the rules were, but I think we did a variation where we threw like a 500 in there from the bank as seed money to kind of get something.
Well, we did that too with like Monopoly, right? So you put that in the free
what
parking.
I was gonna ask later on if we made variations of games.
I do remember, I do remember like throwing a 50 or 100 or something in the free parking. Yeah, just to make sure there's always something in there when you landed there, or like during payday when you rolled a 6. I think it was when you got the jackpot. So you always wanted to make sure there was something in there whenever you did that. At least we did.
Yeah.
So what are some other ones we played? I'm trying to remember.
I'm trying to think when we played. Phase 10 was one that we played. It was a little bit later on, but we started playing that quite a bit.
That was probably when I was in high school, because I know Dad loved that game.
He did, and there was a one dumb moment that I did. Do you remember this? You probably do. So I'm sitting there. I'm down to like last 2 cards, and your dad has to pick. Or no, I have to pick. I have to pick from your dad. And I don't have any cards here. So these are cards, even though they're CDs. Your dad's holding the cards, right? And I do the dumb stunt of closing my eyes, reaching for it. And he moves it to where whatever one it was, and I picked up, the dang wrong card. So
yeah. He was a trickster.
Well, he was, I'm just being the naive kid going, I don't want to pick it. I don't want to pick it. Oh, I can't look. And he did it anyway. So, but yeah, that was a fun game. It was addictive too.
Mm-hmm.
How about you? What's another one you can come up with?
Yeah, I mean, that was around the early 90s, high school times. I remember when he was over there, across up the industrial park there where he lived for a while. We would play Phase 10 there. We would play Jenga.
Yes.
Played
on
a
that
lot
wobbly
of Jenga.
Table of your dad's. Man, I hated that thing. You didn't
Still
dare
has that
breathe.
same table. Yeah, that was big during that time. There was one called, it had to do with like motions and stuff. It was like the movie director's cut. I don't know what you call the thing, but it had cards that was up here, and you'd have to act something out and grab the card before it dropped down in. Dadgum. Can't remember the name of that. It'll come to me here soon. I remember playing that one. I don't know if you were ever.
No, I don't remember that
playing that one or not. Can't remember though. But yeah, it was. Anyway, what were some other ones you remember? I'm gonna throw out there.
I know one that we played. I would say off and on, not on a consistent basis, but we played it nonetheless, and that was the classic Uno.
Yes, I love me some Uno.
Oh yeah.
Still play it. We've got multiple decks of that. It's funny, like I noticed this a while ago. I think I even posted it up on Instagram. So we have a classic kind of deck with the black back, and the just the normal kind of setup. We've got one that's a Disney Cars version with
Hmm.
Lightning McQueen and all them on the cards. And then we got another deck somewhere, a newer deck. Well, they trim the cards. The colors bleed to the edge of the cards. They're not they don't have a border like the old
Right.
version does. So when you set the cards down, the deck down on the table,
You
you
see
can
them
actually
all.
see a rainbow of colors on the on the side. So you can almost predict what you're going to get next by looking at the deck. I'm like, who came up with this?
Someone
Who
trying
got
to
rid of
cut
the
costs.
border?
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess so. Or I don't know. I don't understand why they would make that change, but at the same time, it was weird just kind of seeing that and being around my dad all these years. You're like, oh, there's an edge.
Oh
I
yeah.
have to cheat somebody. Anyway, but yeah, we played. I was gonna say we played a pretty good deal of Uno. It was kind of, I don't know, playing with two players is always kind of difficult for me because then you got to figure out what to do with the draw twos and
Yeah.
what to do with the skips and the reverses. I mean, those are just basically like another number. But some people play where you get a draw two, that person loses a turn and you go again. So it's
Right.
like you play a draw two. Well, you play a draw two. You play a draw two. If you get those many in your hand, you could like pile on some cards on somebody and just kind of keep going.
Which we've done.
Yeah, same way with the skips. So you have to figure out, how to adjust the rules a little bit to make it a little bit more fun with two players. And yeah, you got to draw two cards, but maybe you don't skip that person's turn. I
Right.
remember coming up with some stuff like that just to make it more fun for two people. But yeah, Uno, we still play that. All of us will play it.
Yeah.
Even Gigi, she just learned how to play it, I think, just a few months ago.
Nice.
But of course, she has to lay her cards all down on the table. And we
Tell her
just
which
kind
one to
of,
play.
we're just, yeah, she's learning. We're trying to help her. And anyway, uh, one that we got to talk about before we get out of here that our mutual friend had that we are, I think, both going to be receiving
In November.
hopefully next month. And that is Fireball Island. Oh my gosh, I
Yes.
love Fireball Island, and I've been have you been getting the updates? Have you been
Oh, I
seeing
get
the
them all the
updates?
time.
And you see, like the last one they sent, or one of the ones they just sent was wherever this game is getting made. It's somewhere overseas. They showed the like the printing press for the board, and then they showed how these marbles are made. There was on this machine like spitting out these bright orange little orbs,
Yeah.
and those were the creating the marbles. And then they had this thing that pushed up that made the mold for the 3D board. And oh man, I just been getting so excited to be seeing these updates, and I'm like, oh, I just can't wait to get this game. And I remember having that kind of feeling when we would go over to his house and we would decide to play or get it out, and it just has this aura about it. I
Oh
don't know what it
yes.
is. It's almost like watching a movie or something.
Well, I think the obsession was, this, like you say, it's a 3D game. So it sits up, if I remember right, a fair amount. I'd say maybe 6, 8 inches off the table itself before you even get your the dude that's at the whatever he
Right,
is, the idol or whatever he is up on the top. And then you can go down, if I remember right, 3 or 4 different passageways. It might be the way it's led, but I think you have 4 or 5 options, and then all those routes is where the fireballs can come down.
right,
So
right,
it might miss you, or it might hit you, or you don't know, or it might take you, if you're standing on the bridge, it might knock you off the bridge.
right,
So I think it was the dynamic of, it was the chance that you might be going the right path and you could avoid all the fireballs, or you're not, or you're going to be, plus the, like I said, the 3D, that it's not the 2D, it's not a card, it's not uh a little game piece going left, right, or a circle or whatever. It
Right.
was the fact that you could climb. You could turn the dude's mouth wherever you need to launch the fireball. It, to me, that's what made it so impressive and only almost an obsession because we were looking for how many years we really didn't put two and two together, and in a sense that hey, we missed Fireball Island, and it was like RetroCon when it finally hit us, like, oh man, we haven't seen this, man. Maybe we should start looking for one. And I would
Right.
periodically go on Craigslist, and I would actually go up and down the East Coast to find one. And if I found one, it was $300 or $400, and it would say not complete or almost complete or missing whatever. $400 for a game. You're insane. That's how what I'm thinking. I'm like, I'm not paying for it. Then you go to RetroCon, they're like, oh yeah, there's people making out of the 3D printer just a couple pieces to get them by to sell the game or just to get the piece made that they lost, at
Right.
grandma's house, whatever.
Yeah.
So it was just now we have it. I wish we would have thought that stupid thing through and just did it and had our own. Could have made a mint. These guys
Right.
are.
Yeah. Yeah. That was just there's something about that game that just was fun, and the commercials were great too, and got you excited to play it. And oh man, it was one of the, and it was, I don't know how much it cost back in the day. It wasn't cheap,
No.
but the fact that neither of one of us had it and he did, so you're trying to subtly hint what you want to do when you come over. Oh, I want to, how about Fireball Island? Okay. In the meantime, you're like screaming in your head, just get the game out. Come on, let's set it up. We want to play. But
That was it. It was a mad dash to find it. Um, I thought I was finding a price for, the original cost.
mhm.
Um, but yeah, there was jewels. I forgot there was jewels for this, and all types of stuff. Not even Wikipedia has it. Um, but yeah, it
Well,
was it was an expensive game nonetheless.
yeah. Let's go on to your final question here, because I kind of like this.
Were there any games that you didn't play, or perhaps you wanted to, or didn't even know that they existed? Kind of in that mindset of where there's something that you play or you didn't want even just saw it, you didn't want to play it, or maybe there were some games that you wanted to play, never got a chance to. Um, yeah, along that scheme of thought.
I'll let you go first. Go ahead.
Oh, me, okay. One of them, I always saw commercials for this, and it always looked complex. So that's what that's what kept me away from it for a long time. Was Risk, because you hear people talking about it, saw commercials for it, but
Yeah.
I never really figured it out. It wasn't until my adult years that a couple people explained it to me. I'm like, man, now I wish I would have played it. I just
Yeah.
still haven't played it, but I'd like to now.
Yeah, I didn't have much experience with that one either. I do remember one of the last nights in our house in Georgia before we moved here. We had a bunch of friends over, and they brought over the Lord of the Rings edition of
Mhm.
Risk. So you had like the Shire and all of the different areas, the elf Rivendell.
Oh,
You had Mordor, you had all of these other places on the map, so it wasn't like, the normal Risk. And we played that. That was probably one of the few times that I've actually sat down and played Risk with a bunch of people, at least, like two or three other people. And that was really fun. But it was like one of those games that I just never really got into either. Another one would be like you wrote down here, Mousetrap. I never had Mousetrap. I remember playing it. Did you have it at your
no,
house?
no, I wanted to play it too. Still haven't played
Some
it.
I can't remember who had it, but it seemed like took forever to set the thing up, and it never worked right, so you had to kind of help it to move it along. I actually bought one at a thrift store for $1, and it
Right.
was an older version, I think, because it was the rectangular box. I've got it around here somewhere, I think, still. And it had all the pieces, and we finally set it up, and we were just messing around with it mainly. We didn't really play the game to build the actual trap and all the pieces. We just wanted to make sure it worked and stuff. And I was like, man, this is just kind of, I don't know. I remember at the end too, there's like a place where the mouse is kind of going around, and then you finally, try to catch it. But it was all dependent on how the trap was set up to work to see if it actually
Worked.
got you. Yeah. So I don't know. It just never was one that I really enjoyed.
Okay.
Trying to think of another one. Go ahead.
One I came up with, I think our mutual friend had Classic Concentration. I vaguely remember playing it, but I wanted to get it because I watched the TV show, so I wanted to get it and never did. That was one that I was thinking of. And the same with Wheel of Fortune. I never did actually play that one, but kind of thought it would be kind of cool to play.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember who had Wheel of Fortune. What was the one I was just going to say? Oh, Operation. I hated Operation. I still do. It was just so nerve-wracking, and I could never I don't know which one it was, the knee or the one that was really skinny. You trying to get that thing in there and buzz you out. I remember even buying one. It was when my oldest boy was smaller. It was like the Toy Story version. I think it was maybe Buzz Lightyear. That was the character. You're pulling stuff out of him.
Yeah.
But even then, I was like, man, this sucks.
Yeah.
I don't want to play.
Well, equally, I mean, I played this. Like I said, I had two versions of it, but Perfection was kind of equally the same thing because you're trying to put all those pieces back together before the thing scares the bejesus out of you because it springs at you.
Right. I just thought of one I used to play with my buddy Kurt. I think it's called Mastermind, and it was this. It was with these pegs, or maybe it was No, it wasn't marbles. Anyway, you had a little thing that was hidden, and it was like a little color pattern that you would put. And I don't know how many colors there were total, maybe 4 or 5, but they would have like 10 chances to guess your color pattern. And based on the colors that they put down, you would say, all right, this is in the right position. And you've also got another correct color, but it's out of position, and they're trying to find the pattern that you have hidden. We used to play that a lot.
Never played that, and it just popped up on screen share, one of the pictures here, but
there
I
it is.
never
Yep.
played it. I guess I was never curious. I've seen it, passed it by, but that was it. Never passed by.
Yeah. I
don't.
That we played a lot of it, but I don't remember winning it a lot.
I'm sure it's kind of aggravating because you're like, man, what is it? Which combo?
Yeah, and then and it's like one of those games. I hate the games where the process or whatever gets interrupted by people trying to figure something out. So you're trying to figure out this pattern. You're trying to look back at what is going through, and maybe that's why we played it a lot, because it just took forever to get through a game, because you're trying to see what pattern you already did, and you're like, oh, all right, let me try this one. You're kind of racking your brain over it, and it just never seemed to work out. Oh, I see another one on here I didn't like.
Which one's that?
And I don't know why. I remember having like a CD-ROM version of it that was fun. And maybe it's because you just didn't have to deal with all the cards and little pieces and stuff. And that was Life.
Oh, I love Life.
I don't know what it was about the board game itself, because you got to put the little kids in the car, and then you got to have the tiles, and you got to with the dealing out the money and changing jobs and all that crap. I don't know. I don't know. It just seemed like it took forever to get through a game. It was a lot easier when you're looking at a computer screen and it does everything for you.
Right. Well, I remember trying to get you to play a game of that on the computer because I had bought the CD-ROM,
Mm-hmm.
and I remember us having to fight with like all uh, the internet trying to get it to work. So,
Yeah.
I think that really rounds it out for me.
Yeah, I think it does for me too. Well, as I kind of alluded to at the beginning of the podcast, I'm getting outside the ones we didn't like. I'm just kind of going back through the list here, but Crossfire. I remember a mutual friend having Crossfire.
Mm-hmm.
That really wasn't a board game per se. It was more like one of those tabletop games where you're shooting the marble, and that was just fun, because you're shooting those marbles, trying to get those little pieces in the middle that were different shapes, over to the other side of the board. Basically,
Right.
it was almost like foosball with like marbles,
Yeah.
and it was just fun. And the commercials, were great too. Got you kind of excited to try the game, and it just seemed like it was something out of like an arcade or something that you would play. And it was fun. I remember playing that one a lot over at his house.
Mm, I'm trying to think of any others.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of. I mean, I have a list there, but I'm trying to remember uh, essentially what I had or wanted to play. I think I've really, like a better term, I think I ran out of games. I know there's an honorable mention I did want to mention.
Uh-huh.
Again, it's for regional, like anything else, any other area. But we had the Clearfield Monopoly back in the
Mm-hmm.
day, and I want to say it was one of those Clearfield County Fairs exclusives.
Oh,
Um,
really?
uh, and it was, local merchants, put their donation into it, and that's how they were rated for uh, position, lack of a better term, position on the board. I remember like the local McDonald's was on it. I want to say Old Town Road Dairy was on it, but don't quote me. Little things like that were on it, but I cannot find this thing to save my life. Um, this I have a second version, I'll call it, of the Clearfield game. I bought it in around the 2000s, early 2000s. I bought it, but it's like a stock market style game. It's not like Monopoly, like you and I would think. It's like,
Mm-hmm.
and there's four different versions. Basically, you're beginner to experienced level, where you're trading and getting bonds and all types of stuff. I couldn't get it past the first, the easies. So I have it, but I don't use it. I don't play it. Um, but because of that, there are. Let me put screen share back up. There are. This came out last year. St. Mary's Opoly
Oh my gosh.
has come out, and they're taking orders for Du Bois Opoly. It's supposed to come out in December.
Yeah.
So I
I
don't know
would
what this is
imagine
going to
pretty
consist
much
of.
every city, every town, every thing you can pretty much think of is become monopoly at some
Pretty
point.
much, yeah. But I thought it was neat, unique that we had one. Um,
Mm-hmm.
like I said, the Clearfield one, the original Clearfield one, was kind of cool because you saw all the original stuff, but like I can't even find it on Google, so it's obviously one of those long forgotten uh, entities.
Gotcha. Gotcha.
So that leads us to what's next for our ideas.
Right. And then I believe it's your turn. So do you have something on the brain that you might want to talk about the next time?
I got two on my mind.
Okay.
I've been itching to do the phone battles. I think that'd end up being a very short one. But I've been itching to do that. And another one that just popped up is childhood foods. So I
Foods.
remember growing up with, and I'm talking like anything. You talked about your cheese and chili filled hot dogs back in the day.
Yes.
Back in the day when we looked for the can of SpaghettiOs, uh, stuff like that. That was my idea with childhood foods. What you remember, Tostitos or whatever.
Gotcha. Snacks and
Just anything. Yeah,
fast food or just pretty much anything.
pretty much anything that was you remember growing up as a child. Growing up that probably most Americans would go for, like I said, SpaghettiOs and whatever
Mhm.
else. But some that we might find unique. Like me, I liked what was called mountain pies, which were just nothing more than uh, pizza and a grilled cheese or grilled sandwich type of thing, but we cooked them on a campfire versus just
Yeah.
making a grilled cheese sandwich on the frying pan or something. Um,
Well,
so
I can think of like cereals. I
yeah,
can
oh
think
yeah.
of just stuff I don't know, stuff of the era of like like you said, back in the 80s, childhood, what we flocked to when we were at the grocery store, begged our parents for. So, yeah, I'd be up for that one.
That sounds like we'll do the childhood foods.
Cool. Cool. And we'll figure out maybe I need to think about the phone battles a little bit more and see how we could kind of stretch that out into some more stories that we
Well, I
could
can
tell.
think of one story. We've already told it, but I tell it again.
Yeah, I think I can think of a couple. So we'll figure that one out, how we can set it up and get that one on the future list.
Sounds like a plan.
Okay. Well, take us on out of here.
All righty. So once again, we want to thank you for tuning in to Memory Jogger, and we look forward to your comments on Rediscover the 80s and our social media platforms. Now that we've run ourselves ragged and spit while hitting payday, we crazy ate ourselves as we pass go and avoid popping into trouble. You know, you want to play life as we continue to run down a dream on Memory Jogger.
Very nice. That seemed like it was off the cuff. I enjoyed it though.
Uh, it was like off the cuff just before we started the podcast.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, thank you, YouTube, for watching us, and we will see you next time.
Enjoy. Thank you again.